A loan deal with an obligation to buy the player in football is not exactly an uncommon thing. In fact, it has happened a lot of times in the history of football transfers. But what about a loan deal with an obligation to buy that actually forces the club on the other end of the deal to significantly cut down the playing time of said player? That is exactly the situation that Antoine Griezmann, a World Cup winner with France in 2018, has found himself at Atletico Madrid this season. Hello everyone and welcome back to Sports Today. My name is Shane Reyes and today we are going to be looking at a rather complex situation that has seen Antoine Griezmann, a very marketable athlete, a very capable striker, a World Cup winner as I mentioned before with France, become a super sub at Atletico Madrid despite the fact that the club actively went out of their way to sign him back from Barcelona after selling him. How exactly has things come to that? Well, the key factor here is money, or a paucity of it. And to get back to the bottom of this situation, let's first look at how exactly it was that things unfolded. You'd remember Barcelona signed Griezmann for a not insignificant amount of money. The move didn't work out and Atletico Madrid came swooping back to get him on a cut price loan deal. It was cut price in more ways than one because not only was it a 2-year loan with an obligation to buy for only 40 million euros, but Griezmann accepted a significant pay cut. He was paid 21 million euros before taxes at Barcelona, and at Atletico he's only earning 10 million euros now. Anyhow, he accepted the deal because, of course, Atletico's manager Diego Simeone wanted to bring him back to the Wanda Metropolitano. It wasn't working out for him at the Camp Nou, so he joined on a 2-year deal, but the 2-year loan deal had an obligation to buy. Now, that obligation to buy is where things actually get really hairy. Now, the obligation to buy which is put in is dependent on the triggering of certain clauses by Atletico Madrid, and the main clause that has to be triggered here is that Griezmann should play at least more than 45 minutes per game in at least 50% of the games that he's available for. They won't count matches where he was either suspended or injured, but of all the matches that he's available for over this 2-year period, if he plays more than 45 minutes for at least 50% of those games, then Atletico have no choice but to pay up the 40 million euros and make the deal permanent. That is the nature of the deal. But as it turns out, Atletico, and this wasn't, by the way, going to be a major problem because last season he played around 80% of the games, 80% of those games he played more than 45 minutes. So the deal seemed to be all but done. But this year, Atletico Madrid have decided that they're not really going to trigger that clause. And as a result, they have made Griezmann, a star striker, into a super sub. In fact, he's only started one league game so far this season, and that one league game was the derby against Real Madrid. Before that, every single one of his appearances for Atletico Madrid came at the hour mark and came off the bench. Again, this is not a player who's just, suddenly lost form, not a player who's losing touch. This is a player who's still operating at the peak of his powers and is only being used as a substitute. Yet, you'd think that he'd be kicking up a bit of a fuss about this, but that's not really been the case. He's readily accepted the situation. He's in fact gone out in public and said that, I feel like Atletico is my club. This is the place I want to be, and I'll do anything for this club. And that includes, of course, clearly being only used as a super sub. But the main question, of course, you'd be asking yourself is why? Why would Atletico go to these lengths to avoid paying just 40 million euros? That's not a significant sum of money, at least not in today's day and age. The reasons, well, as I said, comes down to money. The main thing is that Atletico also have some financial issues and they don't really want to be paying this much money for a player who will be on the wrong side of 30 once, of course, this 2-year loan deal comes to an end. He'll be 32 years old at that point, and they're not really very keen to pay that much money, 40 million euros, for a player who will be turning 32. So they want to actually sign him, but they want to sign him on a cut price deal. The other reason for, of course, them wanting to actually reduce the value of the deal is the fact that Atletico, aside from not having that much money to spend on transfers, also have an inflated wage bill. Their wage bill currently is around 200 million euros approximately per year, and this year they ended up getting back two very big earners who no club wanted. One was, of course, Alvaro Morata, who spent last season on loan at Juventus. The other was Saul Niguez, who spent last season on loan at Chelsea. Both of them were off the wage bill last year, so they could actually afford Griezmann. This time around though, not so much. Both of the heavy earners are back. Atletico have a very inflated wage bill with players who no one really seems to want to buy, and that is the main reason why they are looking to, not trigger this clause. That being said, they still want Griezmann, so there is no indication of the fact that Barcelona would want to take Griezmann back, because in fact, as I mentioned, he's on 21 million at Barcelona. He was making 21 million euros per year before tax. If let's assume Griezmann goes back to Barcelona on those wages, he'll become just as much of a problem for the side as Frankie de Jong has been in recent times. Barcelona won't want that, so if we really have to, move past this impasse, there is every chance that Barcelona and Atletico can in fact agree on a new deal to, sell Griezmann to Atletico to ensure that he gets off Barca's wage bill. Now, of course, there is precedent for this. You'd remember that Philippe Coutinho, when he joined Aston Villa, there was an obligation to buy him for about 40 million euros. However, Aston Villa actually negotiated with Barcelona, and Coutinho himself pushed for the move, and they managed to bring that 40 million down to 20 million euros. So clearly Atletico feel like there is, of course, some scope for them to renegotiate, especially considering the fact that Barca themselves, their financial problems have been well known. Then, of course, there is the fact that, of course, the main reason behind why there's not that much optimism on the first 2 points happening yet is because in this summer itself, Atletico's chief of transfers, Gil Marin, actually contacted his counterpart at Barcelona, trying to strike up some sort of a deal to actually reduce that. There was no deal struck, and as things stand, Barcelona don't consider Griezmann their player. In fact, they've also made summons to their lawyers saying that if Atletico don't pay up, we will take them to court. So there is very well a possibility that this entire thing could go to court. Either which way, it's one very ridiculous situation. It's even more ridiculous concerning because, of course, it concerns a player of very big repute. Remember, Griezmann, after he was a key part of leading France to the World Cup, also came close to winning a Ballon d'Or. So he's not exactly some player who they're just haggling over. He's a top player, a world-class superstar of the game. And he's caught in the middle of a money battle which he really has absolutely nothing to do with. It is an unfortunate situation, and in fact has cut down his game time significantly at the worst time, because remember, 2022 end of the year is a World Cup year, so Griezmann could very well be faced with the prospect of going to a World Cup having not played as many matches as he would have liked, or as many minutes as he would have liked, and not probably be that sharp. And again, he was a key part of France winning it, but France have an abundance of talent. He'd want to be playing as much as possible to keep his hopes of being a starter in that French team alive. But enough about how I feel about this. What do you guys think? Is this a ridiculous situation, or is this something that Barca actually invited on themselves by inserting a clause that was so easy to game? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel, as well as tap the bell icon so if you haven't already, of course. Don't also forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And last but not least, download the AajTak app for all the latest sports news updates from around the world. Thank you all once again for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Rice, and I hope to see you all again soon. Bye bye for now.